All right, we are here getting ready to start working on figure 3-82. You'll notice that you are given what looks like a land parcel and are asked to make some measurements and use some units to move these. You're given different angles with which to manipulate around, and the idea here is that you are kind of building these lines going from point A and line segment AB all the way around more or less clockwise to do this. So I'm going to walk you through. We're going to remember to talk about supplementary angles as we go through. I have drawn this up already. The textbook gives you line segment AB, BC, CD, DE, so on and so forth, and gives you the actual measurements. I've kind of put them on here so we can watch and look at this at the same time. But I wanted to point out a couple of things. Just remember, we're going to have to do some figuring and some calculating based off of what we know about complementary and supplementary angles as we go. And I'll be referring to some of this different geometry. Of course, the end point here that we really need to know and find out is what the length of line AH here is, and what the angle of AHG will be on when we're finished. Now you'll notice I've already kind of gotten that in there at 90 degrees is what I've calculated out. We'll see if we get the same thing. So to start out, I'm of course in my object layer. I'm down here as my annotation scale is 1:1, and I am in decimal units. So we've talked about changing things on our status bar to different units. So we are going to be using this in here as we figure that out. So my first point to solve this would go ahead and click on the line draw tool and specify my first point. So I'm going to start out right at 0, 0. That's where we've been told to put that. And notice that I have restricted my drawing capabilities to ortho. So I can do that with all my horizontal and vertical lines, but that's not going to help me with any of those angles. So I'm going to go right down here to my status bar. This little icon here is the ortho mode, so I can just go ahead and click that, and that's a left click to turn it off, or you can see I could also have used the F8 button either way, but so now I've taken that off and I no longer restrict that. So I'm going to type in my line length here, which is going to be 180 units, whatever the units are set at. I will tab over, and again I want this to be 180 degrees. Now that's important to remember that AutoCAD takes your frame of reference for all of these angles using the x-axis, and it is the x positive axis. So every point that you generate now, so now you'll notice here as I go to create this next line, it is given off of the x-axis. So since I know, coming back up over to here and panning, I want a 60 unit long line that is 120 degrees, so that's pretty easy. So I'll go ahead and I'll do 60, tab 120, and I'll hit enter. Now I've got that. Here's where you start to get into problems, because it is asking you for a 90-degree line. Now if I just go ahead, and of course that is a 48 unit long line, so I'll type in 48, and if I go 90 in here, so I'm not going to hit enter yet, just so you can see. If I go 90, that's going to put that straight up, and obviously that is not the same as what we want over here, so something's not quite right. We've got to figure things out here, and we've got to recall supplementary and complementary geometry and our angles. So if I am 120 degrees over, that means that I have 60 degrees on the other side. If I draw a line going from C, and if I were to take a construction line from point C and extend it horizontally this way, we would see that we would then have complementary supplementary angles, and we would be able to know, well, this angle here is 60 degrees, which would mean that from point C, when I come off of there, I'm going to be coming at 30 degrees. Go back, make sure I got 48 and 30 degrees, and there's my next line. Now I got to do the same thing there with the 75 degrees. Now, one other way that I can do, keeping in track, and I can be adding and subtracting all these degrees and complementary, supplementary degrees. The other thing that I can do is if I know, and I'm just going to use my endpoint here, and I know that now, that angle, notice in my, how that pops up and shows me that is 210. So if I can also take 210 degrees and subtract 75 degrees from it, well, 210 minus 70 would basically put me at 140. So we're looking at, in this case, 135 degrees. So my line length on this one is 42, and that's at 135 degrees. So there we go. So now we're back here again with this. And notice this line, just kind of using what I've already got, so long as it's correct, if I come back here, that's 315 degrees. Now, I'm asked for 60 degrees right over here. So from here on up, I've got to have 60 degrees. Well, again, if I know that I'm 315 degrees going that way, that means the angle that I create from here would be 360 minus 315. So, or 45 degrees. So, if I am at 45 degrees there and I need to be at 60, all I have to do now is go up to 15 degrees. Let me type in my distance, come back over here. We're at 74 is our length, and we are at 15 degrees, and type that in. So there's that. Now I'm coming back. Now I've got to kind of come down here at 90 degrees. So again, I'm going to take my cursor. If I know that at this point, so when I do this here, and I go from endpoint to endpoint, you'll see I'm at 195 degrees. Now I can just add 90 back in there, which would be 285. So my line length on this one is, hit escape there if you mess up. So my line length on this line is 50, and I'm at 285 degrees here. So that's that. So again, now I've got another 90 degrees that I'm going to come here. But here I'm going to kind of look at what this angle is. So, and this angle shows me that it's 105. That means if I need to make this 90 degrees, I got to go 105 minus 90, which would be giving me 15 degrees there. And the line length on this one is 90. So I'm going to type in 90, tab 15. That brings me and gives me line GH. And I can solve. I just go back right here now to my X0, Y0. And I click on that, press enter. That finishes it off. Now, the line and the question was, what is line AH? What's the length of that? And what are the angles generated here? So to find that out, right up here, I'm going to go into my annotate tab just real quick. We're going to put this angle, select the angle, and I'm going to check here and click on that line. So that's giving me 75. So I'll hit enter. So placing that, I'm going to repeat and do the same thing. So as I go, so let me hit 0. So click here and here. this is 90 degrees, exactly what I expected it would be. So, and I can then also come in using my power dimension, click on this endpoint and this endpoint. Now, notice, you got to be careful here as you dimension. So you got several ways that it might come through, and we need to make sure that we are coming off what's referred to as normal to the line. So, and by normal to the line, that means at 90 degrees. So there I'm at 103.3394, and that should be the exact same as up here. Now, notice I'm going to talk just a little bit here, because this 42-inch dimension we got coming from over here. And if I dimension this, I'm going to click here and there. Now notice I can get multiple dimensions off of here, and they're all different based on how you're coming across and what you actually want to know. So you've got to pay attention to making sure if you need the actual line length, notice you've got to come off parallel, or what's referred to as normal. Now, notice I'm going to probably end up with 3 different possibilities here. And this is where you got to make sure that you know and understand what you're looking at. So here's hit this, there, and bring this one in as well. Alright, so depending on how you're doing it, I've got 3 different dimensions: 36.3731, 40.5639, and 42 inches. What is the exact length of my line? Well, the exact line length will always be the length where you are normal to the line. That means you got lines coming out perpendicularly to the actual line. That's referred to as being normal. Notice these are giving you actually different dimensions and are not good dimensions. So you got to be aware of that as you're going through. Quick check, if I just click on this line, go down to properties, that pulls it up. I can kind of see through here as I take a look. Notice one of the things in here does have my line length, so I can find out what my line length is through that as well. And right there, that's showing me that the length of that line is 42. Let me go back and show you how I did that again. I just escape out of that. Remember, if you ever do something, just hit escape. So click on the line that you want, and then I right click, go down to properties. Properties menu for that particular feature comes up, and I can go down and I see that was the line length of 42, and it's at 135 degrees to x0 on that particular feature. So another way, if I've got that highlighted, is just to also kind of do quick properties. You also get the same thing there. That gives you, and probably is a little bit easier to go, you don't have to scroll down to find length, but that gives you the line length right there, 42 as well. So a couple of different ways that you can double check to verify what the actual length of those lines and make sure that you got that done. So again, so this is drawing figure 3.82. Make sure you save that as figure 0.3-82- your first initial followed by your full last name, and submit that for this particular assignment. That shows you how we can go ahead and get this drawn. So thanks for watching. Hope it helped. Feel free to either ask me questions in class or send me an email, and I'll answer you as quick as I can that way too. So thanks again. Have a good day.